Hello, everyone. I'm here with Brandon Gallagher. Brandon is an activist to help fight the unemployment rates in autism. Thanks for being here, Brandon.
Thanks, man.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your diagnosis and how long you've been diagnosed for.
Sure. So, I've been diagnosed since I was 16. I am currently 21, turning 22 in September. So I've been diagnosed for roughly 4.5 years, five-ish. So, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I'm actually turning 22 in November, so it's cool that we're around the same age.
Yeah, good stuff.
So I know you're very passionate about the unemployment rate for autism, as
Yeah.
am I. So I'd like to hear your general thoughts on this because I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you.
So general thoughts about surrounding unemployment. So what I notice a lot in the autistic community is the problem of unemployment isn't brought to light. What I notice a lot in the community is it's more about kind of the very small things that we struggle with, burnout, people's quirks, little idiosyncrasies that are across the autism spectrum. But the real problem that people don't talk about is the unemployment problem. We know that the unemployment rate is extremely high. 84% of autistic adults in North America are unemployed. 84, that is ridiculous. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I thought it was 86 last time. Did it go
Oh,
down?
sorry, 86, my bad, not 84, 86, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, that's 6 out of 7. And like, just to give you a perspective, just to give you the audience a perspective, like, there were 7 people on the collab last time, and if there were general rate, and if the general rates applied there, there would only be one of us that was employed. So just let that sink in for you guys who are watching this. So what's the biggest thing that needs to change about the hiring process?
That's a huge, huge topic because I don't know if it's as simple as changing the hiring process. So let me kind of tell you what is happening in North America in terms of discrimination policies for hiring right now. So there's a law put into place. This is even taking place in Europe, by the way, too. So in just generally in North America and Europe, there's laws surrounding discrimination against people with disabilities, where what actually happens is these don't actually stop discrimination against people with autism at all. You can't really put that on paper. What it actually does is it stops them from legally sending you an email or replying to you or rejecting you on a basis of your disability. So let's say that I apply for software development and I indicate that I have a disability. Now, on paper, they cannot say to me that we have denied you as a result of your disability. They can't do that. But the thing is that they can discriminate. There's literally nothing stopping them. You can't really on paper say, okay, well, you can't stop hiring people with autism because our laws prevent it. You can't do that. I don't even think if you could put in a law into place that could actually make this happen. It's more of kind of like a zeitgeist shift that we need in the way that people think. It's like to look at a different community. Like if let's say that a black person versus white person applied, if someone discriminated on a basis of their skin color, they can't tell you that on paper legally.
Right. But they can do it.
They can do it. There's nothing stopping them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually an incredible point, and that I'm pretty sure that happened to me, because I actually applied for a summer camp position as a camp counselor, and I had a perfect resume. I had a perfect interview, and they denied me. And the reason I think they denied me is because I had those little stimming things going on. That had to be the only reason, in my opinion. That's what I see. I got really pissed off about that.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because I definitely did deserve that job. And it is possible that they discriminating because of my stimming. So what's the biggest misconception that you think employers have of us?
So the biggest misconception that they have of us is that we're unemployable. This idea that autistic people are unemployable because they have no skills is very widespread. It's kind of culturally acceptable right now. Like if you wound back the clocks 200 years ago, it would be socially acceptable to talk about and discuss the idea of Black people being unemployed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how it was back then, and the same thing is happening now with the autistic community, where it's socially acceptable to think that that autistic people are unemployable, that they have no skills, but this is not true. As of a recent study, I wish I would have brought it with me. I think over a third of autistic adults have a degree.
Mm-hmm.
They hold a degree, and what they're finding is that if an employer actually does hire someone with autism, what they find is that they're underemployed, which is another huge issue. So you're having people coming with computer science degrees, engineering degrees, any sort of degree that you paid for, you worked for, saying that, you know what, I want to make some decent money, I want to make a living,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're giving these people minimum wage jobs, no benefits, anything. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a guy who had a computer science degree, and he's stocking shelves.
Wow.
No benefits, minimum wage, can be fired at any time, nothing. And there were studies done on this, that they found this, that if they're getting hired, they're never going to get promoted. They have a high chance of being, dropped out of the company first, laid off. And they're being employed in sectors that are completely irrelevant to their industry, where their expertise lies. And it's insane.
Right. Yeah. And that's a legitimate concern that I have as well. I'm going into education. I'm going to be a teacher.
Yep.
But given the rates where it's so hard to keep a job as an adult with autism, I'm wondering how long is that going to last, and how long until I'm just going to have to turn to Kroger or something. It's a scary thought for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a bit of an anecdote. I was going upstairs the other day just to talk to my mom, and she says, "Oh, McDonald's is hiring."
Yeah.
And my face, like, I just, like, I lost hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
Exactly.
I have experience, I have a portfolio, I have a kick-ass resume, so, and I have education too. So, I mean, I and and people are like, oh, well, life isn't fair. That's what people will say. Life isn't fair, and it's somehow rationalizes how absurd the situation is.
It does. Yeah. It excuses it. That's what it does. So do you believe that some people on the spectrum are too disabled to work? And do you think that has anything to do with the unemployment rates?
If we want to be honest here, of course, there's going to be people out there who need more support, who, by definition, aren't employable in the working world, and it's unfortunate. But the percentage of people with autism that are unemployable by this definition are so low. I mean, the majority of autistic adults who are unemployed, these are high functioning people like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
These people have education. These people are intelligent. I mean, our IQ is mainly average or above average.
Yeah.
It's actually above average.
I mean, for me, Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just below the dean's list. Like, I'm a smart person. And I know you are too. I know you're very intelligent. So,
Thanks.
so I'm sorry, go on though.
And there, this doesn't play like the number of people who need support to the point where they can't be properly employed is so low, right? And this isn't, it comes back to like, this is the stigma, right? Oh, 84% of autistic adults are unemployed because they're unemployable. They need too much support, right? They're nonverbal, they do typical behavior that is depicted on TV, movies, and other garbage like that. And it's not true. This is a very small percentage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So going on, I think that's an interesting point you said about needing resources. So why do you think that services and resources we get in college just disappear when we graduate and we get into the real world?
This is such a big question, because I think if we want to talk about this honestly, we have to go beyond the realm of the discussion about autism, right? Because I mean, we live in a, I'm gonna have to bring in economics here and a bit of politics here.
Go for it.
We live in a capitalist system, right? It's cutthroat out there, especially with the deunionization of the workforce, workers' rights being stripped away from them from the corporate world, corporate oligarchs. People aren't going to get support. I mean, our government's not doing anything about it. I mean, we've only 6% of the private workforce, which is what employs everyone pretty much, is unionized, and out there, I mean, you're not going to get support, because if you're not 100% of the time creating revenue or adding some sort of value to a company, you are a liability to them.
Exactly.
According to them. So they're not going to give you support. Support to them is expense, opportunity cost to them, right? And this is extremely important, because if people want to understand the problems surrounding autism, employment, meaningful employment, and stuff like that, and resource management, they have to have a solid understanding of economics and alternative economic systems and new ways of thinking and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good point. But I mean, for me, like I'm working with a bunch of companies, to help like increase the increase the employment rate for those with autism. And that doesn't cost much. Like, that's very affordable. So I think if we start with that, then we can get like more support and more resources and more financial gain.
And I support that. I support that, but I think we've spoken about in the past, like what that actually means. But I think that's great.
Yeah. And we can talk about that another time on the next collab. Maybe I'll have to think about that.
Sure.
But how should workers handle things when an autistic worker has a breakdown or has sensory overload?
That's another difficult one, because for me at least, I think for my needs, I need a quiet space. I don't like being bothered by people. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm working remote, so that if I ever do have a breakdown or something like that, people won't be around me to see it, because it's going to be a huge red flag to the employer, right? So how they can kind of provide resources or adequately address the mental breakdown. I'm not a medical professional. I don't know how to properly answer that. I just know what works best for me. And that is just having a quiet space and being away from people. And that's why I'm not going into an office, so I won't need to deal with that anymore, right? Because it won't be good.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, like I'm going to be in front of 30 students for 8 hours a day,
Yeah,
and I'm just going to have to like think of some strategies. And that's just the reality. So I'm going to do the best I can with that.
yeah.
Um, but we're going to move on to one more question. How much of an effect do you think Autism Awareness Week or Autism Awareness Month has on employers understanding the difficulties of this condition?
Absolutely none. I'm not a big fan of Autism Awareness Week.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a facade. It's an excuse for corporations and charities to obtain money, but you don't actually see anything change,
Yeah.
right? We'll have all these parades and social media events and fundraisers, but nothing changes. Um, so it's the the unemployment rate's not going to move. I think it's gotten even worse. Like I'd love to see what it's like after COVID. What the stats are regarding employment and underemployment after COVID, because we haven't seen them. I'm going to guess it's worse. It probably is. Um, but yeah, Autism Awareness Week, nothing's changing. I think it's more of like a symbolic victory than anything, right? Um, when it comes to Autism Awareness Week, we're not going to actually get any voices out there, reasonable voices of what we can do to fix the problems facing us. What's going to happen is we're going to have, idols like Sia kind of guide these
Oh
movements,
gosh.
and we're going to have
Such a great example there.
yeah, and Autism Speaks, or is it Autism Speaks? That's the name of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I need to do some more research on what's wrong with them, but people hate it. So
Yeah, and it's going to be like 90% autistic moms,
mhm.
and then 10% autistic people, right? Like
Yeah,
it's going to be like, oh, this is what it's like living with my son or daughter with autism. This is what they go through. How about we hear about what actual people go through, like me and you?
exactly.
How
Yeah,
about let's hear from them? But it's funny because we find that we're autistic people are arguing with normal people about what we want. Why should we be arguing with them about what's best for us?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's a no-brainer.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I like that a lot. And I personally don't like Autism Awareness Week myself. But I will do all that I can during this week to improve the acceptance of this condition. Um, well, thank you very much, Brandon. I really appreciate you coming on. This is going to be a fantastic video. I hope thousands of people watch this because
I
this is some
really
good
hope they
stuff.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff right here. All right. Thank you, man.
Yep.